Welcome to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yachts, and today my guest is Robert Enriquez. He is a manager, a director, a casting director, a writer, and a producer. Enjoy. Okay, I have a guest with me today. I have Robert Enriquez. He is a manager, a director, a writer, a humanitarian, and a producer. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Very excited to chat with you today, sir.
Awesome. I love it. First question, where did you grow up?
I grew up in the middle of the state and on the west coast of Pinellas County. And I was born in a place called St. Petersburg, Florida. And that's where I grew up until college, went to University of Florida. And after that, I worked in the industry between Miami and Orlando before coming out to California. And then California is where I actually grew up.
Wow, cool.
Starting in my mid-20s.
So you started in California, then you went to Florida.
Well, Florida, then California.
And then Florida. Wow. That's cool. I saw that you studied at Florida State and you majored you were a theater major. How was your experience there?
It was fantastic. It was definitely a big life change for me. I mean, high school, I was an athlete. I played football and I played basketball. And my goal after that was to go into the military. I was also a very super shy kid. But in my senior year, before this football season started, I had a really bad head injury. So I had to postpone the military for a while. And then we got into some war in the Middle East. And I decided to just stay with college. And it was just interesting how way different world that was. I was a biology major at the time, hoping to be a dentist. As a class, we had to go watch some auditions. So I went and watched. And then the director saw me sitting in the audience and she said, "You got to come audition." I was like, "No, there's no way I'm going to do that." I was terrified of being in front of people and talking. So I didn't do it. I went home and I felt kind of weird. Like, why didn't I let myself have that opportunity? So I went back the next day and I actually auditioned and I got this little role in this show. And I got bit by the bug. I'm like, this is what I want to do. It was so much fun. And then like big change in direction on the career. Said enough of these science and math classes. Let's go with the costumes and wardrobe and singing and dancing and Shakespeare. I'll go that route instead.
Yeah, because you're pretty tall. You're 6'5".
6'5", yeah.
Were you attracted to the arts younger, or was this like the first foray into
that was the first. That was the first. I mean, for the most part, like I said, it was all about sports. Did a little bit of dance stuff as a kid, just from my culture of being a Filipino. We supported this Filipino American club, and that was just something you did as a kid, is you did some of the dances to bring that forward. So I did that, but nothing else. It was all primarily sports and wanting to be in the military.
What made you want to go into the military?
I think at the time it was just growing up in the 70s. It's like, and not knowing what was necessarily available and not even really, I think my parents not even knowing necessarily, but knowing that there's people in our family who, they did this. They were able to have a good life from it, retire with pensions and things like that. So it was almost like, okay. There's that route of security. There was also I can go do this and then I can get money so that I can pay for college and get out of college debt free. And then there was the whole just also wanting to have, serve the country.
And you said you wanted to be a dentist originally. So that's interesting. So you're going to go into the military and then come back and do dentistry, but then
pay for that schooling, those years and years of schooling.
Acting. Then the acting bug bit you. That's cool. Yeah. I read on IMDb that your move to LA was because of River Phoenix. Now I imagine there's a story to that. What is the story to that?
We were doing this show and it was called Working by Studs Terkel. It's a musical. And there was this actress who was part of the cast. She told us before we did this one of our performances, she goes, "I'm going to bring in this friend." And he's kind of a big actor and all this stuff. And, we were all dying to know who it was. And she didn't tell us. We did the show. It was a blast. I remember I got to I got to sing and then sing in Spanish, which I don't speak Spanish, so I had to learn Spanish, and it was really really challenging and fun. Did this show, and after the show, we're all hanging out, and this actress, her name was Sabu, I think was her name. This guy over, and it was River Phoenix, and he was so nice and chatted with us, and we talked, and we interacted a few times after the show when we initially met, because just this little group of actors that were in the Gainesville area. And one time when I was talking to him, he was just like, dude, you should get out of here, get out of school, go to LA. Just hearing that from an outside source, because I was just doing it because I enjoyed it. And I never really thought much about the future. Am I going to go to New York and try to do plays or try to go to Hollywood? I wasn't even thinking that far ahead, because I was in school and I was doing the plays, and I was also doing professional plays at the same time. So I was just kind of in the moment, wasn't thinking too far ahead. But when he put that seed in my head, I was like, wow, okay, this might be something that I should consider. And then even at the time, once I started working on film and TV in Florida, it was always, oh, I can just stay here and work. I wasn't really thinking about making that big move. But I guess when you're like 19, 20 years old, you're not that well versed in thinking like that, at least for me and how I grew up, to just get up and go to pursue being an actor. I thought I would always have to keep finding something to fall back on. But he was definitely a big proponent in saying, just go for it. You got to get out there. You're young. While you're young, you got to do this. And then, unfortunately, when I finally decided to move out to California, and that it was that same weekend when I got here was the same weekend that he passed away from his overdose. It was probably, I think it was Halloween, and I think I got here November 2nd or 3rd. It was just a few days later, but just sad, because he's just such a nice person.
Yeah.
Very, very positive, very caring to all those around him.
They say the same thing about Joaquin as well. From actors I've talked to who've worked with him, they say he's very caring.
They were all around. His sister was at the same school. At the time, I was at this school called Santa Fe Community College. It was in Gainesville, where University of Florida was. But yeah, they were, I think her name was Leaf. We would see her on campus. And then River, I would see out socially.
What were you, because I gather that you did a lot of plays. What playwrights did you like? That's kind of a broad question.
No, I mean, it's not. It's I just only laugh because I honestly like Rodgers and Hammerstein. I like musicals. I really enjoyed the musicals. They were fun. I think for me, I was just getting such a thrill out of, wow, I'm on stage and I'm not terrified, and I'm actually singing and doing weird things that I didn't know that I would be doing in my lifetime. Like you said, you think you're going to have a life in the military and other 9-to-5 type jobs. The next thing you know, you're on stage singing. It was just being in that moment and enjoying those times. It was just a blast. Just such a fun time to remember.
So the musicals, that's the thing you liked. That's
cool. I loved them. I did South Pacific, King and I, Guys and Dolls, just all classic musicals.
Do you find, when you hear like the modern day musicals that we have today, do you find there's kind of a difference between the two? More of it's now sounding more like modern pop, as opposed to with Rodgers and Hammerstein, or even Andrew Lloyd Webber, that just or Les Mis. It's just there's this. It was almost built for the stage,
right?
Couldn't and it's, I don't know. I feel like that style is kind of lost.
Yeah, it is, and I get the modernization of it. It's to try to, it's going to be hard to fill those seats. You got to find new and fun ways to do it.
That's probably the worst investment you can make, is go to a Broadway show, and it's like 2 days you could be out. We're closing. I remember was it Bring It On? Came to my hometown of Charlotte, and then it went right up to New York, and it was like a week. It was gone. It's just like, so you never know. So jumping a little bit forward now, how did you get into managing talent?
Well, I'd been out here in Los Angeles for a few years. I'd already slowed down on the acting because I was doing more producing, and I just enjoyed being on set. I think part of that was it was similar to with sports. It was just like it was a community and like a family that you create when you're on set or
Team
when
effort.
right, or when you're doing a play. You build this family. And I was doing films. I was always the first one there and the last to leave. And then I
Yeah.
was doing a project, and we were scouting in Mexico while we were down there. It seemed like things were going great, but they weren't. And it fell apart. And I was a little bummed out because films, it's such hard work. You put a lot of time in. Sometimes they go, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
This particular one fell apart. And I came back and I was talking to a buddy of mine who owned a talent agency. And
Mm.
he's like, dude, you have these connections to different, producers and casting people, and you like to help people and try to, tie all these pieces together. So he goes, why don't you come work at my agency for a while? So what I did is I said, okay, I'll do this. I could, sit at a desk for a while, make some money. It
Mm.
seemed exciting. He was doing quite well, and he was more on the modeling side. So it was coming in to bring the models and get them on film and TV, because
Mm.
that wasn't his forte. He was more print work and things like that. So I was doing that, and it was okay. The problem for me was is I didn't feel very connected to it, because I don't even remember, we probably had 700 clients. So you
Yeah.
don't know what people are capable of. You don't even know if people are still with you. They may have moved on. You call for an audition, the
Did
number's
this so
dead.
and so quit? Oh,
Right,
quit. Wait, that's
right,
769 now.
right. Like they left us 3 years ago. It's like you just don't know. So it
Yeah.
didn't last very long, but I saw, I'm like, oh, this isn't that really, this is pretty easy to do. You grab that, see the breakdown. At the time they'd come in on fax. You
Yeah.
circle and write down the names of the people, pull the headshots down, put them in an envelope. A courier grabs them. It's like it was fun, and
The old school style
the old school way.
submitting.
Right. And then I was like, I could do this, but I want to probably go start my own management company so that I can still produce. I can have a smaller roster. And my goal
Yeah.
was always, as an actor, I remember thinking, what would I want as a manager? And I remember I'd watched Jerry Maguire, a few years before that. And I'm like, to have that feeling of like, you're special and you're just,
Yeah.
you're the number one client. You might not be, but it's nice to feel that way. And it's nice to know
Yeah.
that the rep is going to get back to you. They're going to talk to you. They're going to, have your best interests at heart. So I decided to go that route. So from the short time as an agent, I decided I'm going to go with management and I'm going to start my own thing. So I started going to workshops and looking for people. Had a couple friends that I brought over as well. I'm like, okay, you don't have a manager, let me try this. And they were cool with it. And we just slowly grew. I found an investor to help me get started with covering the overhead and just getting the breakdowns and just different things like that. And that's
Yeah.
how it all began. It was a transition from the acting to the producing to being an agent to being a manager.
So let's go back to producing, Riff. What you kind of already answered this with, you like the camaraderie efforts of it. Is that kind of what attracted you to producing as well?
Yeah, I think it's that, and I really dig the challenges. Like
Mm.
nowadays, there's certain things that when I have a certain challenge in front of me, it makes me more enthusiastic. Like there was a film I made a few years ago, and I convinced them to bring it from Florida to LA in this marina, and I knew that I was going to have to do a lot of water shots. So that was something I was excited about. So those challenges, like that one, I was having to get in a tank with these fish and then, do a lot of underwater shots in this cold water. Then I did a film last year where we knew it was going to be like -30. And, we don't even know if the equipment's going to last. But those kind of challenges to me are it's really exciting, really exciting. And then we did one during COVID. And just that was tremendous because, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know if people were going to be able to drive down, if the freeways were going to be closed, all these different things. It's just, it makes it exciting. I mean, I have projects with clients that are larger that we're trying to package or that are on network. But to me personally, it's almost like a hobby-esque type thing. Is I like making these small films with teams that I enjoy being around. It's just fun to get from A to Z, because a lot, like we said earlier, a lot of these projects, try to get them made. It's years and years and years. So it's fun to squeeze in these smaller films to actually see something come to fruition.
Well, I watched Cash for Gold, the short. I know now you've turned it into a
Feature.
feature, but since we're here, talk a little bit about Cash for Gold. I just thought that was terrific. The way you shot it and everything, it just was like, what I liked about it is you didn't explain too much, and it made me think
Yeah,
from beginning to end. I was like, what's this?
good.
And it engaged me. A lot
Nice.
of times I find with short films is they can be either you don't know at all what's going on,
Right.
or it's
Right.
too broad, and it's
Yeah.
just like they're trying to do almost a movie. Whereas here it was just, I mean, immediately as it started, I was like, oh wow, I'm like really engaged with this.
Oh,
This is
good.
really interesting with what you're doing. Can you talk a little bit? I know you and Deborah
Deborah
Pure,
Pewitt. Yeah.
you did the little funny video where you didn't know her name either. It was
The
Fairway, yeah.
Kickstarter. Yeah, that's funny.
um, talk a little bit about how that came about, because I just thought that was terrific.
Well, with the short, wow, that's pretty sure it's been over 10
Two,
years.
2015
Yeah,
is what I
it
wrote.
was, I think what we were hoping to accomplish initially was getting Deborah some footage that she would
Mm.
be able to use so that we can, have some real material
Uh-oh.
while we're in the battle of trying to get jobs. So that compounded with her also doing some writing. So she wrote this, and I said, well, this is really great, Deborah. I love what you did. I think she did such a fantastic job with that script. So I said, let's get this made. And I said, I'd love to direct it and produce it with you, just so we know that it gets made. Because a lot of times with clients, I'll say, oh, well, you should just make something. And then a year later, still nothing has happened. This one, I really wanted to take the reins and push with her. She was great to collaborate with and always so much fun. And just, she's so brilliant, so talented. So it was fun to, have something. We did the Kickstarter, we put that short together, and it was just weird how it just had this great little energy, got into some nice festivals. We were atop, we placed way at the top of the NBC Universal Short Film Festival. And I
Mm.
remember there was before that even, which that was great because we got to go to New York and screen, and then we screened in LA to like 2 theaters filled with like 900 people. It was insane, but so much fun to see that little story and what it could potentially do. And I remember we were at the Hollywood Film Festival. We're sitting at this table, and I remember saying to Deborah, you see that tiny little stack of papers? Look what it did for us. I mean, we're sitting there and there's Sean Penn and Harris, these huge name actors just
Yeah.
walking around, Jared Leto. Like, this is crazy. And that's why I've always put emphasis as a manager on clients, just be proactive, do things, because you just don't know where it's going to land or what it's going to bring for you. And one of the great things is once you do it, there's so many different avenues. I mean, we had that fun adventure with the festivals and whatnot, but then now we had a piece of something to pitch for a feature. And then she wrote the feature, and then we had a great calling card. Like, look, this is our style, this is the feel. And that gave us that opportunity to move forward in that area. So from the short, it was years later, we got the script for the feature made. And then that's when we were introduced to this producer named Amos Hassan, and he was able to find investors for us. Which, in another interesting little turn on that was, I run this film festival called the Sunscreen Film Festival before 2020. In 2021, we were doing a panel, and a friend of mine, Ramphis Myrthel, he was talking on a producer panel, and he talked about Minnesota, and he's like, there's this area where you can stack rebates and you can get up to 70% back. And I'm like, what? 70% doesn't make sense. But is it true? And he said, yes. And he said he was just there and he talked to them. So of course, that Monday I was on the phone with the film commission there trying to find this out. And they explained it. And I was like, this makes sense. And we had already scouted Ohio. And I felt like, okay, this is a similar kind of vibe. Let's get out there. So Deborah and I flew out there and we saw the town. We're like, this is perfect. We can totally make the film work here. And with those rebates, that will help us on the financing side. So we had told Amos about that, and he went to his investors. He goes, let's pull the trigger. Let's go. So this was like November. We scouted in December, and then we started shooting on Valentine's Day, February 13th. So it moved really quick once we found the place, found the rebates, and then we're able to give that information to Amos so that he could pull in the investors. And then that's how the feature happened. So That's a little
Mm.
roadmap from the short and wanting to have some footage to having a feature film now, where Deborah has the footage of that as well as being the director. So it's been a great
Yeah.
experience for her.
Now, Deborah wrote it. Did you write as well the feature?
No, no, we talked about it. We went through
Mm.
things, and there's been many different drafts. Um,
Mm.
but it was no, definitely Deborah wrote that, and then we collaborated nicely on set with the directing, because she was acting and being in front of the camera and directing. It can
Yeah.
be tricky, so it was nice to be able to have her back and lend support.
How was shooting in Minnesota? I mean, that's a pretty cold place.
It's so cold. And being from Florida and living in California, I'm not that familiar with snow. I mean, I've been in snow at Sundance.
Mm.
That may have been it. I mean, I've probably, oh no, and I
Yeah.
went skiing before. So I've seen snow like twice. And then I'm here in this place where, like, I remember one of the first mornings I left the hotel with wet hair. And then I look in the car. First, I can't touch the steering wheel because it's so cold. It feels like it's burning.
Yeah.
And then I feel my head, and I'm like, my hair is like wire, because it would freeze just from walking from the
Yeah.
hotel to the car. You get in the cold car, you start driving, and then I'm driving. Then I slide right off the road into embankment of snow. I'm like, oh, how embarrassing. Hopefully no one saw me.
Yeah.
Luckily I didn't get
But
stuck.
you're not used to, driving in that. So
Oh yeah.
it's like, what can you
No, it
do?
was like, am I driving a car or a boat? Because I was just sliding. So that kind of stuff took a minute to get used to. But and as far as filming there, I mean, the crew, they were troopers, and they were
Yeah.
fantastic. The people in the town were great. The
Mm.
snow on the ground and the visuals of that, to me, I thought were stunning. I mean, I love the place so much that we actually, my girlfriend and I and a partner, we bought a place there in
Yeah.
upstate Minnesota, because we we wanted to have, something on the ground there, have a business that can tie into the film industry that is trying to grow. So
Yeah.
we put some roots in. We want to spend more time there, and I want to try to make more films there.
Yeah, because it's kind of an untapped
Mm,
potential there.
yeah,
You know,
I just love
it's
it
kind of
there.
like what happened here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I am right now.
Mm,
Is we had the first Hunger Games, and
yeah,
then they kind of screwed it up, and Atlanta kind of took over, and that's kind of how Atlanta became the
yeah,
hub of kind of like the Southern Hollywood in some ways.
yeah. Oh, for sure. They're almost
It's
the Hollywood. They do so much there.
yeah.
Is North Carolina offering any rebates?
They've come back to it
Yeah,
now. It's a little bit better. I don't know if it's what it once was. I mean, the North Carolina Film Commission, it seems like they're getting going, but like if they had not done that in 2012 or so, they could have,
right.
could have been what Atlanta was, but they just they didn't see the growth. So yeah, Minnesota is probably an untapped potential, because I think a lot of people are like, well, it's cold and everything, but it's like, but
Oh,
look around, see what it, looks like,
right.
there's a
Well,
lot to,
you get seasons there, and then it's weird. Like I
yeah,
said, again, not being from a snow area, that's when I want to film there. I want to film there every year between December and March, because I love when it's cold. I love that
yeah,
snow. Of course, it's difficult, but
yeah.
to me, I would fill that time slot every year if I could.
Well, New York, sometimes
Yeah.
days become like 14 degrees, and that's when you have to like have a face mask on, because it's like you don't realize that cold can burn your face till you've reached that kind of level of temperature, and you're like, oh
Oh
wow,
no, it's crazy.
like
I mean, there.
Star Wars.
Yeah, it's insane. I remember one day specifically, I had to leave set and have a phone call with an agent. We were trying to close one of our actors on Cash for Gold. I'm outside, and I had to take my glove off so I can hold the phone and push buttons and all that stuff. I'm holding, and
You're like,
I'm talking. It's kind of, intense. I'm walking around. And then I go back in the house, and I remember my hand was like this. I couldn't move it. It had felt like it was frozen. And then I went to go put it under the hot water, and one of the camera guys, no, 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 don't do that. That'll mess. That's not, I don't know if it's true or not true, but I didn't
yeah,
do. But I was like, I don't know how to handle this. No, nothing I've ever done, but my hand is frozen right now. It's very strange.
yeah,
And it was probably 15 minutes, but it was, again, I think it was It was in the negatives for sure. It may have been -10 or 15 at the time. Yeah, it
Wow.
was crazy.
You don't even realize like how cold that is. It's
Mm,
like until you experience, it's like,
right. Oh,
oh wow, that's unbearable. So
yeah.
what did you do with the hand? Did you just like
Just
just let it
waited for a
sit
while.
or
Yeah, I just waited, and
oh my
I
God.
put the glove back on and just
Ah,
stayed inside.
wow.
I
I
raised my
saw
arm.
the I saw the mermaid. It was kind of like a sizzle reel or something, like it was like a trailer for it. Did that
Mm.
become anything
Yeah,
else?
yeah,
It was on YouTube.
the Adventure Harbor one. I think that's the mermaid
I'm
thing.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure. You on YouTube you interviewed you auditioned like 5 kids, I think it was.
Ah,
And
yeah,
then I saw a trailer for Misty the Mermaid, but I'm
yeah,
sure that was probably, yeah, it's probably became Adventure Harbor.
yeah, that's
That's
the one.
probably
That
what
was
it
the
was.
feature.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now that I
Relativity
think
produced
about it.
that for us. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a fun one. That was the one I mentioned where I like that challenge of being the guy who was doing the water shots and things. So that was
Yeah.
a lot of fun. That was a fun one.
And then you did Staying Afloat. I watched that. That was interesting. How did that come about?
That was part of that film festival again, the Sunscreen Film Festival, but that was from the Florida branch.
Hmm.
Last year, I was on a panel where people pitch ideas, and this girl
Hmm.
pitched this story to me about this couple living on a boat and blah blah blah. And all I have to hear is boat, because if you look at my
Yeah.
films, probably half of them
Oh.
are shot in
Oh.
Marina or Redondo Beach or Hermosa Beach. So when she said that, I'm like, this is a great opportunity. It's a short. I can make it quick. I have a boat that I can make this happen more easily.
Yeah.
And then I can come back with a victory story for someone who got up and did a pitch, because that's terrifying to do that in front of a room full of
Yeah.
people. She did it, and I was very proud of her. And I was excited to say, look, let me option this from you and I'll make it. And we just screened it at the festival a few weeks back in Florida. So it was nice to have an audience for that and to get it out there. So that one was more
Cool.
of just a contribution to try to get something made for someone who, was trying to step out of their comfort zone, is trying to
Yeah.
make a career for themselves as a writer. So I'm glad she now has this finished project that she can show.
That's great. Talk a little bit about the Sunscreen Film Festival West. Is that the full title of it?
Yes, the Sunscreen West, we've had it here for the last 10 years, but last year I've decided I was going to go out on top and just close it down after year 10. I'm just getting more involved in too many other things, including
Yeah.
the creatives of making films. I'm like, you know what, 10 years is good. I hit my mission statement of getting and creating a venue for people to show their films. And we showed, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of films. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Made a lot of connections for a lot of people. And I just felt it was time to move on. I mean, 10 years I felt was adequate. We have the sister festival in Florida, which I think they just did year 18. So
Wow.
I might try to see if I can be involved with those guys. But yeah, as far as festivals go, I think
Yeah.
the 10 years was a good stopping point for me.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first producing job you did, you were a line producer.
First, it's the first few is what that a lot of time that's what I was doing. But I
Yeah.
think I usually got a co-producer credit, but I
Hmm.
would get into a situation where they didn't know how to do the line producing. So I would say, I'll do the line producing, but I'd like to have a co-producer credit. I don't know why does it really make any difference or not. But yeah, I think for the most part, I was a gun for hire on projects like that, where I was line
Hmm.
producer / co-producer.
You've written some stuff too. Do you have a writing process that you like to follow?
The process has been development for the most part, and
Yeah.
just like I say, because I'm repping clients, so it's just collaborating with
Yeah.
them. And I often don't get a writer's credit, or I hadn't in the past until recently. I've started to do more. So I have a couple different partners that I've partnered up with on the writing. And then probably just since COVID, I've actually started just doing some of my own writing
Yeah.
as opposed to just rewriting. So I have a feature that's been written. I have a couple now, and then I have a TV pilot that I just finished, and I hope to try to sell that at some point.
Hmm.
Obviously, it takes place in the marina, but I can't leave that area. But yeah, it's been fun because I think with doing the management and the producing, sometimes I don't feel like I have that much of a creative outlet. So
Mm.
it's been nice to do the writing. It's fun to
Yeah.
create these different worlds and see what happens from it. And it's just the same thing like I tell my actors, if you're proactive, now you have a piece, of something that's tangible. So now I have
Yeah.
several different scripts that are, they're done. I can pitch them, I can try to package them, I can try to make them with the clients, put the clients in them. So it's just
Yeah.
part of that proactive process while at the same time doing something that I enjoy.
Did you come to it intuitively or did you learn about it? Were there certain books that you read or did you
No,
take a
no,
class?
I've had a friend named John Millay who I've made a few films with, who he's always been
Mm.
a great mentor to me, and I just love his writing. So I've luckily been able to be around him and pick his brain and listen to his great advice for years now. And then other than that, it's just been just the trial and error of being around projects and repping actors and reading the scripts that they get and seeing what is getting made and what's being bought. So it's been more of just getting the boots on the ground and doing the work. And then there has never definitely haven't done the classes and things like that. Been too busy being proactive. Haven't had
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
time to do that.
Do you are you somebody that like when you have a little bit of time you go and you write or do you schedule it? How do you go about your writing?
It's a little bit of both. It's for me, the writing is kind of on the back burner.
Mm.
I like to call it's my dessert because I love doing it and it's something I want to do, but I got to do the work stuff first. I got to do the management, got to try to keep the clients working,
Yeah.
got to read their scripts, got to find, new opportunities for them. And then when there's a little lull, okay, it's dessert time. I can go to one of my projects and I can do a rewrite or I'll pump out a few pages. So it tends to get pushed back a lot. I think if I were the type to say, okay, I'm going to do this every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to
Yeah.
11. Maybe could go faster. I'm not sure, but I
Mm.
just, there's the priorities of having to keep the management going is priority number one. So that's the first thing. And then when I get to the dessert, I get to the dessert.
Okay, that about does it for this episode. I want to thank Robert Enriquez for his time. Please like, share, and subscribe. Consider checking out the YouTube channel. As always, you can find me at Justin Yachts. And stay tuned for part two. And I will see you next time on the DMF.